Hi everyone, it must be 5 o'clock and it's time for home cooking with Foodland. Really happy to see everyone here. Hope you guys had a great weekend. We're looking really forward to tonight's dish. It's a simple dish. I think it speaks to Hawaii, and what I really like about it is it reminds me of um, like Sundays when I used to be a kid and we used to watch Let's Go Fishing, and Harry Kojima would have his cooking segment. So this is kind of in honor of him. And we'll be doing ahi today, and I will definitely be using garlic salt. Um, but the other cool thing about the dish that we're doing tonight is we're using fresh local fish. And as you guys are seeing out on the news these days, the industry is in turmoil because of the volume has gone down. And so, after this class, if you haven't gotten your ahi, please go out, get some ahi. Let's support all of our local fishermen. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. So tonight we're going to be doing sizzled ginger ahi and miso eggplant. And we'll go ahead and get started with the eggplant. So we've got our Japanese eggplant here, and we're going to prep them for the broiler. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut them. I'm just going to cut the stems off and peel off part of this so I can use as much as I possibly can. And, I guess, the thing I got to remind everyone or remind myself to talk about is if you have questions, please use your question and answer feature, and we'll get answers to you. And please don't hesitate to ask lots of questions. That's part of the fun part for me, is really having that conversation with everyone. We can talk about the dish I'm making. We can talk about food in general. That's always fun. Okay, so these are the Japanese eggplants, and the ones that I chose, as you can tell, are smaller. They're younger, and the reason I chose those is because the skin is going to be less thick, and when you look inside here, it doesn't have a lot of seeds. This one has a little bit more seeds, but because it's younger, the seeds are more tender. Now, I had a question earlier this week about if you're using the globe eggplants, the round ones, can you use those and how do you work with those for this dish? And so if you had one of those, what I would do is I would cut them into rounds. Like, imagine if you're going to be making like eggplant parmesan, you're going to cut rounds, and I'd be like maybe 3/4 of an inch. So then you have the same thickness, right? Okay, so we have our eggplant here. And what I'm going to do also to try to promote the flavor to going in and also cooking, I'm going to score them. I'm scoring it just into the top part of the flesh, maybe, 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch in, and that's going to help with flavor penetration and cooking. Now, one thing that some people do, and you could do if you want, is to salt the eggplant. And what that does is the salt helps to remove some of the excess moisture that is in this eggplant. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. In this case, I'm not going to, because if I'm going to do that, I gotta let it sit for like 10, 15 minutes, and I don't have any beer to drink and hang out with you guys while we're waiting. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and score these, and then we're going to get them in the oven. Now, this dish, is a very Japanese dish, and it's very delicious. And there's a restaurant that makes a version of this that's really amazing. Restaurant's called Nobu, and we have that all the time when I go there. But one of the things I've learned about that dish is they take the eggplant and they flash fry it, and then they put the miso on, and then they throw it in like a really hot oven. And so what I'm trying to do is a version of that, but I'm not gonna flash fry it. I'm trying to make it a little bit lighter. Okay, so we have our eggplant. It's all nicely evenly on the pan. And then I'm gonna take some oil. This is neutral flavored oil. Again, I'm using grapeseed, but if you have vegetable oil, avocado oil, that's all fine. You just want something that's neutral flavored. I'm just gonna lightly drizzle this. And this is gonna help with the broiling process. It's also gonna tenderize. It's gonna soak into the eggplant and make it nice and delicious. But the amount of fat that's gonna go in here is a lot less than if I freaking threw it in a deep fryer or flash fry it. So now we're gonna go ahead and put this in the oven. I'm gonna put it in for about 10 minutes so that it can broil, get some color, and get really soft.
Does the young eggplant have like a zucchini texture?
The question is whether a young eggplant has the same texture as a zucchini. It's different. Both of them, if they're young, are going to be nice and tender. But if you, eggplant in general, it feels more spongy, where a zucchini is a lot more dense. So those are the differences. But if you're gonna, to me, when I'm looking for vegetables, of whether it's zucchini or eggplant, I am looking for younger, smaller ones because in general, the younger, smaller ones are gonna be more tender, and they're gonna be less. They're gonna be less rough. Meaning, eggplant as it gets older, vegetables get older, they get more fibrous, and they get more, I guess, rougher flavor versus milder flavor. And so that green that's in there is much stronger. It's kind of like, and maybe even woody. If you think about basil, if you pick young basil and eat it versus very mature basil off the bottom parts of the stem, it has a more woody flavor. And I think that's what I'm trying to stay away from with the younger vegetables that we use. Okay, so that's in there. We're gonna let that thing go. What I'm gonna start doing now is get the miso ready.
What temperature are you baking the eggplant at?
So I have it on I'm broiling it, the broiling setting, and it's broiling on high. And so you're putting it in the oven, and you put it, the broiling setting means it's really hot heat from the top, really coming down. And so it's all top heat coming, roasting the eggplant versus putting it in the oven, and it has even heat around. So I have it on high settings, probably about 500 degrees, or maybe a little bit higher. But that's what I'm looking for this for the 10 minutes.
And so if you're allergic to eggplant or you don't care for eggplant, what would you recommend?
If you're allergic to eggplant,
as another vegetable?
Yeah, I mean, mushrooms would be great. We just talked about zucchini. Zucchini would be great. I've never did a miso on zucchini, but you could totally boil it. I think you're looking for just a neutral vegetable to work with. But I think, yeah, so zucchini would work. Mushrooms would work. Like if you got a nice alii mushroom or a honshi, like a nice fleshy one. Asparagus would work. Any of those kind of like fleshy grilling vegetables, I think would work great for this application. Okay, so for the miso marinade, I have a little bit of water in the pan here. And then I'm actually gonna add some sugar, and I'm adding the sugar now because I want the sugar to dissolve into the liquid. So I wanna put about 2 tablespoons in here. So that's 1, that's 2, plus a little happy splash. And then we'll put some rice wine vinegar in here, about 3 tablespoons. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna stir this because I want the I want the sugar to dissolve.
What kind of red miso are you using?
Yeah, I'll show you this in a second. So that's dissolving, and we're gonna go ahead and put the miso. This is red. This is actually from 2018. So you can this thing lasts a long time. It's fermented, right? So I forget the brand, but it's the one that's in the white tub in the stores. We have the white one, and then we have the red, Shio. What's it? Shiro is white, and then Aka is the red. Anyway, this is the red one, and it lasts a long time. And as you can see, whatever. I like to use the red one or the dark one versus the white because it has more flavor. If you think about white granulated sugar compared to like brown sugar, all of that kind of caramel molasses that's in the brown sugar adds flavor. And when you smell this, there's a lot more depth and character in here. There's nuttiness. There's my favorite term, umami. There's a lot of umami here. And so I feel like it adds more complexity to the dish. And so I like to use this. We'll add about 6 tablespoons. So
while you're doing that, just a few more questions.
Yes.
When you boil under the broiler, did you put your pan?
Yeah, this one in this oven, I have it about 6 inches beneath the broiler.
Do you need to open the door a little bit, crack the door a little bit?
No, I have, well, so that's a good question. Sometimes I do that. So the broiler, the way that your oven works is it's got a thermostat, and depending on the temperature, it shuts off the broiler. And so there are times when I want really, really screaming hot, I want those elements to not go off. I leave the oven door cracked so that it's never catching temperature, so the broiler always stays on. In this instance, I've closed the door. I have a small amount of eggplant in that little Breville toaster oven, and so it can handle the amount quickly, and so I'm not worried about it. But that is one of those kind of techniques that you can do when you need to kind of cheat the oven to make it do what you want it to do. If I was using a big oven like this, I would probably be 12 inches from the element because the element is much larger. So you just have to, it's kind of like adjusting and playing with your equipment and seeing what works over time. So I'm gonna put that in here real quick, get a whisk. And then this is another one of those things to taste, yeah. So, you know, you go ahead when you're making it. Go to the way you like it. Sometimes some people like it sweeter, some people like it more acidic. But take note of the consistency. It is nice and I would say it's kind of like the consistency of heavy cream, and that tastes really good. And the reason you want it, the consistency of heavy cream, is because when you glaze your eggplant, you want to make sure that it can coat it nicely and it's not too thick. So we'll put this on the side and let it kind of, all the flavors come together, and we'll move into the fish. So we have ahi today. This is really beautiful ahi, as you can see here. There's steaks that I got from the store. And you know, when you're looking for ahi, what you're looking for is really bright red. You don't want it to be really dark brown, because that's an indication of aging. And even the bloodline here, you see how bright red that is? Maybe you have, let me bring in the light here. All this bright red, those indications of freshness. And look how glossy and shiny it is. And when I push into the flesh with my finger, it bounces back. If I push my finger in and it just stayed there, then it's an indication of age. Okay, so this is really great. And by the way, when I'm smelling this, it smells like ocean. If it smells like fish, that's another indication of age that you don't really want. So we're gonna prep this. And so, as you can see here, you're starting to see all of that, you know, we call that suji, right? And so I'm gonna trim that off. Now, these are the pieces that, in a restaurant, maybe what I would do is take this piece off here, or would scrape the rest of it, and I could do like lomi with that, or I can do a tartare. But we'll put that on the side, and then I'm gonna take the bloodline out here. Now, if you like the flavor of the bloodline, then please go ahead and leave it in, but I'm gonna take it out. Cut that out real quick.
Can you tell us what exactly is miso?
Ooh, I should have done my homework before I got
can
on.
tell you, it's a Japanese seasoning produced by fermenting soybeans with salt and koji, and sometimes rice, barley, seaweed, or other ingredients.
There you go. 10 points.
It's a fermented paste that adds a salty umami flavor to many Japanese dishes.
Who's saying that? Is that you, Cheryl?
That's me.
Nice job. Yeah, and did you say koji? Did you say koji there?
Yes.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us what koji is? Because that's really popular these days. Everyone's doing koji these days. So why don't you let us all know what that is while I prep this?
Okay, while I'm thinking about that answer, can you tell us if there's a difference in taste between red miso and white miso?
Yeah. So the difference in taste is depth and robust. So white miso is going to be milder. It's going to be less. It's going to be less pungent. Where the red miso is going to have way more flavor in there. It's going to be. It has more depth of character, and it's gonna be more. I don't want to say in your face, but it's just gonna be more robust. So these are the pieces here. Like I would, you know, I wouldn't use these for something, but I would take these pieces and find other things to make with them. But these are the pieces of ahi. Now you can see. I've taken all of that suji out. I've taken the bloodline out, and the pieces are nice and uniform, and they're ready to cook. The cool thing about what we're doing here now is, as we evolve the show, right? I don't know if people listen to podcasts, but a lot of podcasts have, you know, they have assistants, and in the background there's always fact checking. And so now I get to have Cheryl do some fact checking research with me as we talk about koji. So here's the ahi. I'm going to heat up a pan real quick. So as we look at what's going on, I have 35 seconds here. I want to show you guys what we have. See how nicely it's coming together. You see how it's lightly browning. You see how the scoring is working so that it's coming apart. We'll let it finish its thing while we heat up a pan here. And on the pan, we're looking for medium-high heat. Now, back in the day, right, when we're frying ahi, you know, you would take something like that, season it, and you would fry it till it's crispy and all the way fried. And you can totally do that if that's what you like, but I'm gonna cook it less. And these days we tend to cook a little bit less. I'm actually gonna shoot for more like a maybe medium rare to medium, because I think that really does justice to a really beautiful piece of fish like this. Okay? Now let's take a look at Our eggplant again looks really, really nice. And so I want to let that sit for a little bit so we can get this going. We're gonna go ahead, garlic salt, use your favorite garlic salt. And when you're seasoning, this is the part I want to show everyone. This is really important. I'm looking for a very even layer on the top. Just like that. Okay, we'll put a little pepper. And then I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna add our fat to the pan. I want a thin layer. I want evenly coat. This is #2 grade, so yes, you could use it for sashimi if you wanted to. But this particular, I mean, if you're gonna, I bought them in steaks. But if you were to buy a block, you could take this part here that was really, you know, here's the skin side, right? If you were to talk the quarter, this part you could take off and you could make a saku block and slice into sashimi. This would also be beautifully diced to make poke. But that's why in this particular piece of fish, I'm not going to cook it all the way crispy, done, because I want to enjoy the quality of this piece of fish. It's really, really beautiful.
And what temperature are you heating the pan to?
Temperature, you know, if I were to put a thermometer here, I would say it's probably going to be about 350 degrees. What I'm looking for, and you know, as we continue to cook together, there are things that you're going to see is common. And every time we cook, I want to say the same things because these are very important. But I'm looking for rippling in the pan. And so the rippling in the pan, as you're starting to see, and see that little wisp of smoke, it's telling me that it's just about ready. And that means we're probably at 350 plus or minus. And I want it to be nice and hot because I'm going to put all the fish in there. And the temperature is going to drop because of all the fish that goes in there. If it never gets hot enough and I drop all the fish in there, then what'll happen is it'll just steam in here. I'll never get any color. You'll never hear the sizzle, and then you're going to have a very just insipid, bland piece of fish. One thing you can do to test, right, is take the piece of fish and just kind of put it in there. You see that? What's happening? It's sizzling, but it's not. I don't hear quite the sizzling that I want. It's very close though. I'm gonna wait just a little bit longer. Okay. Yeah, just medium. I want to go a little bit longer. That's why I think technically what I should do. I'm gonna take it out a little bit. I want it to be hotter.
And did you season both sides of the ahi?
Not yet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place it in, and then I'm gonna go ahead and season. I'm gonna put the seasoned side down, and then I'm gonna season the rest because the unseasoned side will be up. Now, sometimes you can season it, flip it over and season it, but then it's just a bunch of extra steps that I don't want to mess with. So when we're cooking in restaurants, we'll put the seasoned side down and then season the top when it goes to the pan.
By the way, to answer the question about cooking, there's no responsible for recall, something Mirin, and post whatever is needed.
And koji is really cool because people are making their own whole new, you know, I think maybe it's part of the pandemic they were dealing with, but people are starting to make their own koji and use koji in all kinds of different ways. It's almost like a starter that's using it. And I think when people started to make their own starters to make bread, people all started to experiment with making koji too. So now, one thing you could do, and I've done this before, if you wanted to, if you really like it rare, is you can cook one side. And you know, we used to call that cooking unilateral, which means again just the bottom side's cooked, and then if you take the top out and it's rare like that. That's one thing that you could do. I'm gonna go ahead and season this, like we talked about, right?
So you will need to
Will do. Are there any questions?
What kind of spatula is it that you use?
This is a Dream Farm spatula, and this was given to me by Cheryl, who was asking all the questions today. And I like it a lot because it's flexible. I can use it in a Teflon pan, easy to use. It's really awesome. Okay, so we're gonna cook this. I'm sorry to I want to get some color on here, but I don't want to overcook it. So while this is going in there, I'm gonna quickly grab the eggplant. Turn the broiler setting back on. We're gonna come back over here. I'm gonna glaze it real quick with the miso that we have. So this is the miso. Now this is powerful stuff. So you know when you're making it the first time, maybe put a little bit less because you can always add more, or you can put some on the table for people to do more to taste. So I'm just gonna lightly put some on here. Now this miso you can also use to marinate fish, right? So if you're talking like miso butterfish, miso salmon, you can make a batch of this, keep it in the fridge, and use it in all sorts of ways. It's really, really great. Okay, so we'll just put a quick layer on that, and I'm gonna throw it back into the oven here. I have the broiler on already. So now we're gonna just want that. The broiler is going to caramelize and brown all the sugar and all the natural miso proteins in there and add more flavor. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here at this point, because I don't want it to overcook, right? Because I want to preserve that beautiful fish. I'm gonna quickly just turn it over. Just for a second. Again, if you like your fish fully fried, you just go a little bit longer. I'm gonna go ahead and just do a quick touch. It's feeling nice. It'll go very shortly, then I'm gonna take it out.
I'm coming really close because the viewers can't hear me, but can you tell us the difference between rice vinegar, rice wine vinegar, and mirin?
Okay. I want to speak off of the top of my head about the difference between rice wine vinegar, and mirin. And so, my understanding is the rice wine vinegar and rice vinegar is the same thing. There's different words that are people using. Mirin is, I believe, you know, let me just go look. Let's look at together. It's sweetened rice wine, so I believe it's okay. So it's rice wine. My understanding is rice wine vinegar with a sweetener, and in this case, a lot of times it's corn syrup or sugar, and it's reduced so that it has acidity, but it also has a lot of sweetness, and it has a body in it. Okay. What I'm gonna start to do is heat up a pan just gently because we're gonna come and sizzle the salmon a little bit. I have the eggplant in there. We've got our fish that's kind of relaxing, and now we're gonna start prepping the ginger for the sizzling. Like we did before, we're gonna go ahead and peel the skin. Now, oh, I hear a question coming.
The miso sauce
Yes.
that you prepared.
Miso sauce.
I know you said you used red miso from 2018.
Yeah.
But once you made the sauce, how long will the sauce last?
That's a good question. I mean, I would say to be safe, I wouldn't hold it longer than a week or so. And the reason why I'm saying that is the miso paste by itself it's very stable. It's got salt in it. It's a preserved thing, right? When you start adding water and you start adding other things to it, and then you're putting it into a bowl, there's the potential for contaminants to get in there. So I would probably say maybe 7 days or so before you want to get rid of it or do something else with it. But to that point, I think one of the things that I think is important for all of us to think about when we're cooking, right, is what makes food tend to not last is contamination, right? And so when you think about when you're cooking at home, if you use your finger and you touch it and you taste it, you just contaminated the food. If you're not putting the food in the refrigerator, keeping it at 40 degrees or less in a very cold refrigerator, the temperature makes the food not last. And so, if you're at home and you're finding that the food that you're doing, your leftovers, etc., goes bad quickly, you should think about it. Like when I cook, I try not to. When I taste, I just use it once, or I wash the spoons. I'm really trying not to touch the food as much as possible with my hands because that's what contaminates the food a lot. Now I'm gonna touch it with my hands here, but what's gonna happen is I'm gonna cook it, right? I'm gonna put hot oil on it, and that's gonna kill any bacteria. So as you think about that at home, the more you can kind of improve the habits that you have and do things within kitchens, you're gonna find that your food's gonna last way longer, and you get a lot more life on it. Okay, so if you take a look at this piece of ginger here, the fibers are running this way. And it's a big piece. And so it's a big piece and it's a mature piece, so it will tend to be more fibrous than a younger piece. So I'm actually gonna cut it this way or even at a bias because I'm gonna cut against the grain and then I'm gonna cut my julienne pieces off of that. So we're gonna go very thinly.
Where did you get such a big ginger?
Foodland, of course.
Going back to the miso sauce from 2018.
Yes.
Did you have that in your freezer?
No, I had it in my refrigerator. I have a refrigerator. I have a condiment refrigerator. I have so many condiments that I have a refrigerator for just condiments. But it sits there. It sits in a little container, hangs out in the dark, and whenever I need it, I just kind of like move all the bottles and I wave at it and bring it out.
Could you freeze your miso sauce that you just made?
I've not tried. You can try. Probably you can, but the thing is, it has water in it. So the only thing that I would not be sure would happen is whether if it becomes a frozen block. But I mean, if you take it out, you could defrost it. So you could try. I don't see any. It does. I can't think of any reason why it would be detrimental to do that. Let me just check I smell something. Oh, look at that. Okay, so we have look at that nice browning here. Okay. So I'm gonna put a little bit more on top here. I'm gonna just go ahead and baste it. And then we're gonna let it sit. And one of the things that's great about this is you're seeing nice caramelization. You see a nice little bit of the charring. And as you can see here, you see how tender the eggplant is, and that's gonna be really delicious, okay? So we'll let it sit and cool off. I'm gonna turn this pan on. I'm turning the pan on because I wanna get it really, really hot. Because we're gonna put oil in there, we're gonna get very, very hot soon, okay?
Your knife is so sharp. How often do you sharpen your knives?
The knives are sharpened as needed. I think I don't use these as much as I used to when I was like working in a kitchen every single day, but I do use a steel a lot. And I'll show it to you guys again. We showed this a couple of episodes ago. You know, sharpening a knife is putting it on a stone and running it on the stone so that you can really cut the metal down to refine the blade. Using a steel is straightening the blade because as I keep using it, the blade, if you were to look at it on a microscope, will bend like this. And so when you steel it, it straightens the blade out again, which makes it ready to do a lot of cutting. And more often than not, what you need to do on your knife is hit it with the steel to get the blade straight so that you can cut well. When you start to see chips in the blade, that's kind of when you want to start to run it and sharpen it. But every time you sharpen it on a stone, you're actually taking metal away. And so technically, the less you sharpen, the longer your knife is going to last. So we have, we've got our ginger.
If my piece of ginger has a darker center, like a blue or green, can I still eat it?
I would not. I think if you have the blue or green, it's starting to kind of go bad. So I would cut around it and then just discard that piece. So we'll cut some green onions here.
Do you have a preference for heavy European knives or Japanese knives?
I have both. I really, these days I really like Japanese knives. I have Wusthof and I have Henkel, and yes, they are very heavy. I use them in kitchens for the longest time because for the longest time those were considered the standard of excellence. But then as the Japanese knives got really, really popular, I was able to get my hands on something like this is a global Japanese knife, right? And it's light. I like this one a lot because it's stainless and so it stays sharp longer. This Shun is great too. It's hand hammered. I believe it's stainless too, but the blade is so fine that It takes a lot of sharpening. Where this one here, it almost acts like a German or European knife because it's really durable, but it's really light.
What about for slicing ahi? What kind of knife do you like for that?
Whatever knife the fish department guy is using to cut it for me. I'm just kidding. Let me show you. I'll show you something that's really cool. I got this knife. We did this trip to Japan. Oops, and I got this one. We went to the what's the fish market? Tsukiji fish market? Yeah, we went there and we got this from. This is handmade. I don't use it very often, but it's a really cool knife. As you will see, I have tons of knives, and chefs all have tons of knives, and it's kind of like one of those things. We just can't stop collecting them. Okay, so we have our green onions here. So these are the two things that are gonna make this dish really, really delicious. Now, I have a pan that's been heating, very, very hot. I have my plates. I'm gonna put, if you can take a look at this, Chastity, our camera person, you see how this is smoking, right? I'm gonna move it over a little bit. I want it to be that hot. But I want it to be, I don't want it to be so hot that for those of you that were hanging out with me when I forget the dish that we had a little fireworks show. But I want it to be hot. I'm gonna take the fish, I'm gonna plate it in a platter.
Why did you use so much oil to fry the ahi?
Yeah, because what I'm doing, technically the method that I'm doing is sort of, it's almost like pan frying. And so what you wanna do is you wanna coat the bottom of the pan with fat so that you can get even coloring. If you don't have enough fat on the bottom of the pan, then you're just not gonna get the color. And so that is why we always take, after we take it out, we put on paper towels to get whatever excess off of it. Now I'm getting ready to put fresh oil on top of this dish to finish it, but I don't want all of that oil that's been in the pan because it's been cooking with all of the fish and all of the excess pieces of seasoning that fell into there. So it's, to me, it's dirty. I want a very clean flavor in the oil now that's gonna be part of the sauce. So we're gonna put some in the pan here. And this is an important component in the sauce. So, you know, I want it to be enough that it's gonna glaze the bottom of this plate here. So now I have the fish. I've got my oil here, and I want it to smoke. So we're gonna let it get really, really hot. And while we're looking at it smoke, I'm gonna put the ginger on the fish. And I like a lot of ginger. And I'm gonna put green onions on here because I like a lot of that too. But what we're doing here, what's important about this process here is we're really making a sauce. It's all gonna come together. And so it starts to smoke. I'm gonna put a little bit more fat because I really want to make sure that this gets a nice sizzle. And this is why we call it the sizzle. This will be the sizzling ginger ahi, okay? So I'm gonna put this right here so we can see it, and I'll move this pan out of the way. And I'm moving it like right in the middle of the stove because you're gonna get sizzling and it's gonna be a little splattery. And so if you're doing this at home, you just gotta be ready for that because it's gonna be a little bit of cleaning later, but you'll hear it. And so now what we've done is we've basically flash fried the ginger. The ginger and the scallions or the green onions have been flash fried, and the natural flavors and the oils from those two items are coming out. It's seasoning, and we've also cooked the ginger so that it's going to be lightly kind of like blanched. It'll have great flavor, it'll have texture, but it won't be just raw. So this is what we're going to bring over here and finish.
How do you know when the oil is at the right temperature versus burning?
So because we're using neutral oil, right, and we're using something that can take a high temperature, it won't burn, meaning you want it to smoke. And the only thing that will happen after smoking is it will ignite, so it won't burn. Now, that's why you're using something like the grapeseed oil or vegetable oil, because it's neutral and it won't have a burnt flavor as opposed to like sesame oil. If I did that with sesame oil, then it would taste burnt. And that's why we're using neutral flavor. Even olive oil, if you use extra virgin olive oil and you did that, it would taste burnt. But this will not have that burnt flavor. So now we've got all the flavor that's coming together. I'm gonna hit it with shoyu. You see all those little beads that are in here that kind of like makes a nice sauce. It's looking really delicious. It smells good. And then I'm gonna hit it with some of the mirin, which is our sweetened rice wine reduced a bit, right? We'll add that in there, a little bit on top for flavor. And then we're gonna add some cilantro. You know, we have a little bit of time here, and so I'm gonna finish this, and then I'm gonna go ahead and finish the eggplant so you can see that. But because we have time, I thought if we would be fun to make a salad just so you can see one more thing. But I'm adding cilantro, and you know, it's one of those love-hate things. If you don't like cilantro, I get it. I used to hate cilantro. I love it now, but you don't have to put it on if you don't want to. So that's the ahi dish. We're gonna do the eggplant real quick. I'll bring the eggplant here. We'll plate it, and then I'll do the extra credit here. Okay, so we have our eggplant, and I'm gonna go ahead and quickly plate it. Look how it's really, really, really creamy and velvety right now, which is awesome. So I'll put these on a plate here. 1, 2, and you know, you wanna, you know, this is where you can have fun and you can exercise your creativity, right? Put some on here, make it look nice. Okay. Then I'm gonna hit it with a little bit of sesame seeds. I've got sesame seeds here. I'm gonna hit it with some green onions. Looking good. Then we're gonna take a little bit of sauce. We'll put a couple dollops here for presentation and a little bit of moisture. And then we're gonna take some of this. This is Gari, which is the pink pickled ginger, the kind you use for when you go to eat sushi. Take a little bit out here. And so you notice, by the way, I did not put my hands inside, right? Because I don't want to contaminate this, and it'll last longer if I do that. Take it out. We'll put a little bit right there like that. And so we have your second dish here. And like, in my opinion, this by itself with some nice fresh hot rice, that's gonna be really good. Or, you know, you do I believe I'm trying to remember back, but I think we did hoisin with oyster sauce in one of the videos, right? Add that to the dish, you got something great. This is great by itself with rice. This is great as a side dish. So now we're adding to your repertoire. And think about it. I would be willing to bet that most of you guys have all of these ingredients at home already. So I thought it would be fun since we have a little bit extra time. And if there are any other questions, I think now's a good time to ask them, because once I finish this, we're gonna wrap it up. But I thought it would be fun to make a salad. This is gonna be kind of like a Chinese chicken salad without the chicken. But for those of you that were hanging out with us on the last one, we did a slaw with manbok, and I have some left. I thought it'd be fun to make a nice salad to go with the dish here. So I'm gonna take this manbok.
Going back to the previous recipe real quick.
Yes.
Can you cook the ginger and onions directly in the oil and then pour it over the ahi?
You could do that. The reason I don't do that is because what I'm looking for is, when you look at the dish here, I put all of the vegetables, I consider them vegetables, on, and then I hit it with oil, and it kind of came down. The thing that would happen is if you put it in the oil and then you try to spoon it over, it'd be harder to like kind of evenly get a nice distribution of all of the green onions and all that stuff. So that is why I do it that way. Plus, if you do it this way and you have your friends over, you look really cool. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and cut this. We're gonna take this manbok and shave it thin. Again, right, we talked about this before. When you're cutting, your fingers are behind your guide behind, and the knife is against your guide, your middle finger. And that's how you are able to, you know, kind of like go fast and stay safe. Now here's the core. I just want to make sure I don't get the core here. Okay, put that in a mixing bowl. And then we're gonna add some other vegetables in here. I have some carrots, and this is like my new favorite toy. I'm guessing some of you might already got one. It's that julienne peel, right? If you don't have one of these, let me just hang on real quick, throw that in here. What you want to do, right?
What do you look for when you choose a cutting board? And do you have one that you would recommend?
When I'm looking for a cutting board, if you want a wooden cutting board, you want something that is made out of a hard wood. So this one's made out of maple, really hard wood. I like heavy. This one's about like 1.25 inches thick, so that it has some weight behind it. So you can really work on it and really get into it. This is made by a company called Booze Blocks. I would say that 9 out of 10 restaurants, if we're using a wooden cutting board, is using a Booze Block. A lot of restaurants will use, I don't know what we call it for the material. I forget the material, but it's one of these, I don't know what you call it, plastic cutting boards, but these work great too. You want something that has some nice, this one's a cool one because it has a rubber grip on here. So when I'm working on it, it doesn't slide. That's great for like when I'm using, like when I do fish or raw meats, because I can just wash it quickly. And then I put it on here to do my thing, and I move the contaminated stuff away, and I can keep going.
What about bamboo boards?
Bamboo's cool. I think I've had one before. I mean, they're all, it just really comes down to personal preference. But one of the things I do say is you should get one of the big surface area, because that's really helps the cooking process. If you have a tiny board, you're always doing this, and it's just, you need to be able to spread out. Okay, so real quick, just wanted to show you guys. I cut very thin slices with a carrot, and then we're just gonna cut down here. If you don't have one of those julienne slicers. Okay, goes inside there. We have some celery. I'll take a little bit there. We'll put this in there. And the cool part about, you know, I really love using the insides of the celery, the young, thin pieces, because they have great celery flavor, but they're not woody. So when you're gonna do salads, use the inside. Use the outside for making your, you know, celery sticks or soup stocks, but this is really, the lighter pieces are very tender, flavorful, and mild. So that's really gonna make a big difference in your cooking. Okay, so we're gonna take some of the, some more cilantro.
Can you also use the tops?
Can. If you're gonna use the tops, like, so here, these are the pieces that you would use, I would use. Again, you're looking for, like for example, this, right? I would not use this piece because it's a little old too, but I mean, if you're looking for if you look at the thick, dark green leaves, all that dark is chlorophyll, which gives you that bitterness. This piece here, very light, very yellow, very tender. This is gonna be great. So you can throw that inside there. You can also use it to make a Bloody Mary. Okay, that goes in. I'm gonna take cilantro or Chinese parsley. I'm gonna rough chop that. And sesame seeds, very liberally. I'm gonna put some green onions. I want to use the ends here. If you had fried wontons, that'd be great for this. Again, if you had picked chicken for this, would be great. And you can use your favorite dressing. I'm gonna take a little bit of this. I got some extra ginger, so I'm gonna take that and mince it. We'll add it to the salad here. Okay, so now we're gonna make a dressing. It's gonna be on the fly dressing, basically. I'm gonna take a little bit of sugar, or you could use agave, or whatever sweetener you want, right? Just gonna lightly, just very lightly toss the top here. Then we're gonna add rice wine vinegar, just to splash the top. In this case, because I'm adding the sesame seeds, I'm gonna add a little bit of sesame oil vinegar. And then I am going to grab my pepper grinder real quick, and some of the neutral flavored oil. So basically, the basis of the vinaigrette is acid and oil, right? So I've added the rice and vinegar, and I'm adding a little bit of the sesame oil, and a little bit of the grapeseed oil. Then we've got our flavorings, right? We've got our sweetener, the sugar, and then we're adding pepper. That's the basis of this dressing. And what makes this dressing great is to be liberal with the pepper. Okay, then we're gonna just toss it real quick. Again, when you're tossing a salad, you don't wanna go straight in because you're gonna destroy the vegetables. You're gonna stir it around and let it come together. And basically this is the foundation of Chinese chicken salad. I've seen versions like I've seen restaurants where they'll put, it's very simple. It's almost like they're salting the vegetables, a little bit of sesame oil, and that's it. In this case, we're adding a little bit more to it. This is also very reminiscent of, for those of you that remember Ryan's or Horatius or Kincaid's, their sesame chicken salad was very similar, and the dressing base was vegetable oil, a lot of sugar, rice wine vinegar, and cracked pepper. So this is kind of a reminiscent of that. We'll go ahead and put it in a bowl here. Now you could also put mandarin oranges in here. That would be really delicious. You could take red peppers and julienne them and add them. That would make it really nice too. But now, you know, what we've started was a simple, humble fried ahi dish, and we've turned it into a really nice themed dinner. And it's a healthy one too, right? We've got eggplant, it's delicious. We've got ahi, which is delicious. I'm gonna take some more of cilantro for garnish here.
What's the difference between colored peppercorns and black peppercorns?
Okay, so black peppercorns are, they're all from the same sort of family, but they're just different varieties. The green peppercorns are gonna give you a more, they're not as dense as a black peppercorn, and they're gonna give you more, actually a more, I hate to say this, but a greenish, more like when you think of green vegetables, like chlorophyll character. Pink peppercorns are gonna give you a little bit more, not heat, but almost a sweeter peppercorn flavor. And then of course you have the black peppercorns, which a lot of places use cherry peppercorns, which give you what I think we all know is a kind of that pepper heat. So people use mixed colored peppercorns because it gives you different layers of flavor. But those are the general differences between the different kinds of peppercorns that are out there. So here we have the three dishes. We've got our sizzled ahi, we've got our miso eggplant, and then we have a really nice kind of a wonbok salad with a sesame rice wine vinaigrette. And that's dinner for tonight. Are there any last minute questions that we have?
No more questions.
Oh, great. Hey, so I did want to let you guys know that next week, we're going to have a lot of fun because we're going to be doing this live at our brand new store, Foodland Farms, Kamakani in the East. So I'll be doing the cooking class in the store. I'm still trying to figure out what we're going to do, but I think we're going to have a lot of fun. It'll be live in storage, so you'll be able to see all the, if you haven't seen the store or haven't visited, you'll be able to see the store in the background. You know, when we start off, I'll let you guys kind of see at a distance all the different things in there. I'll be showing you some of the fun things that we'll be offering in the store, and I'll be probably using some of the ingredients that we have and some of the sort of convenience chef essentials that we're going to be offering in the store to make the dishes. So it'll be a lot of fun. Again, the store opens on July 15th, which is next week, Wednesday. And we'll be cooking in there at 5 o'clock. So I hope to see you there.
Do we need tickets?
Good question. So as you all know, we're in different times. So the store opening will not be a normal, let's all come in and have a great time. We still want you all to come, but what we're doing is we're taking reservations to come to the store. And so the reservations you can get on is it on foodland.com?
Foodland.com/open-table.
Okay, so foodland.com/open table. You can make a reservation and get a time slot to come and shop, spend all your money with us. We'll take it all. But I think you'll have a great time because the store is a completely different store than we've done before. If you've been to Ala or Pearl City Gateway store, you see the evolution of the Foodland Farms, and this one promises to be a whole nother experience. It's got a lot of natural, a lot of gourmet product in there. We reimagined the hot and cold bar, and it's got a restaurant in there. It's called Mahi Table, and we'll be featuring farm to table cuisine. It's also gonna have a high stakes, and so a lot of really cool features and just a lot of new innovation that we think you guys are really love. So I hope to see you next week, Wednesday at 5 o'clock, live from our Kamakani store. And I hope you guys
What
have fun
time?
tonight.
5 o'clock?
5 o'clock. 5 o'clock on Wednesday next week, 7:15. And we'll see you then. Thanks, everyone.